What's up, guys? We are back with another review, taking a look at the latest and greatest in McFarlane toys. Of course, that means we're taking a look at the new highly articulated Spawn figure from the Mortal Kombat line. You can't get him in store, and pre-orders are selling out everywhere, and needless to say, this is the hot toy right now. So we've got him here in our standard packaging for the Mortal Kombat line, so it's just kind of a basic box, really. Figures there in the big window, Mortal Kombat logo, Spawn logo, and then these sides have got the Mortal Kombat logo, as well as some artwork showcasing the figure, and then you've got a shot of the figure in all his glory on the back, surrounded by all that netherworld energy. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here he is out of the packaging, our Spawn figure. So yeah, there's a lot riding on this figure, I think. There's no doubt in my mind that this figure is the barometer for how much interest there is in a Spawn-specific line. Clearly, this is not your normal Issue 1 Spawn, so this is a specific version of Spawn from Mortal Kombat, although this design is not unknown. We've seen this in plenty of other things, other media. There are figures of this almost exact design from the old McFarlane Toys days, the mostly statue days. The only thing that's truly different here are the fact that his eyes are a little bit different, but this design is very much something that we're familiar with. So there's a lot going on here. I'd say that for what seems to be the test figure for a Spawn line, I'd say we probably have some good stuff in the future because they did a pretty solid job here. I'd say I will go out on the fence right now and say that this is the best thing McFarlane Toys has done since they sort of came back for me personally. There are still, don't get me wrong, there are still a few things that I don't exactly like about it, but at the same time, it's a lot of fun to play around with. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around, because he moves around pretty well. We've got a head that can look up, he can look down. A lot of tilt on this guy, a lot of attitude there. Full rotation, although his collar does eventually get in the way. The arms go out at the shoulder. They rotate in there. You do have a butterfly joint, so it allows him to pull forward and backward. Joints are a little noisy, but it's not really an issue. And then it allows him to drop up and down a little bit as well. There is a bicep swivel. You've got double jointed elbows, and they go higher than 90 degrees, but the gauntlets do get in the way. So of course, this one gets in the way a little bit more, but it's not too bad. Both sides will go above 90 degrees. You've got your McFarlane Toys ball hinge wrists, which do have a pretty wide range of motion, but you have to fiddle with that ball there, which I'm still not a huge fan of. I just don't care for ball hinge joints all that much, but they do work pretty well. This one is, of course, kind of locked into that gauntlet, so you will have to fight with that one a little bit, but it still has a pretty solid range of motion. He's got a diaphragm cut that allows him to go side to side, forward and backwards a little bit, in conjunction with a ball peg waist. So he goes forward about that far total when you kind of move all of it, and then he'll go backwards a little bit more, and then it also aids in tilt a little bit more as well. This also acts as a waist twist of sorts, but you've kind of got to get past all the squeakiness, and then you can twist in there a little bit. Where things are kind of wonky, but in a good way, and also a bad way, are the hips. So they're pretty seamless. Like, they've made it in such a way that it's very seamless here, so it looks like it's not just an action figure or a series of joints here, but at the same time you do lose a little functionality. So they go all the way out, and they kick forward about that far, and then they kick backwards a little bit. Where you kind of lose some of that is in the thigh cut. When you're actually standing straight up, you really can't pivot too much at the hips because of just how the system is made. When they're stretched out, they do swivel, but because of how they're in there, they don't really have anywhere to go. And there's no thigh cut like at the actual thigh like we see with, say, Marvel Legends. So you don't have anything there. We've got double jointed knees, and they go back pretty far. They are those kind of weird joints with the odd cutouts that we've seen with the McFarlane DC stuff lately as well. There is nothing at the shins, which I kind of wish there was because, well, there's seam lines for it. You could cut at both boots to allow that. And then you've got ball hinge ankles down here as well. So he goes backwards, forwards. You can rotate at the actual ankle itself, so you've kind of got that there. You've got rocker, and then of course you've got some really crazy toe articulation. So he does move really well. There's just a few things that, you know, I wish were maybe a little bit different, but at the same time, he doesn't really have too many problems either. You can get this guy into some really solid poses, and outside of, you know, maybe having some work done to do a thigh cut down the road, because I would love to be able to pivot those thighs a little bit more, I'd say he moves a lot better than a lot of the McFarlane stuff that I've messed with in the past couple of months. Now, aesthetically speaking, this is, again, a version of Spawn that is certainly not new, and it's not exactly unique to this game either. It's just
this game's version of Spawn. There are plenty of comics that have Spawn in this look. Again, there are toys that have Spawn with this exact look, with this gauntlet, with this boots, with these pouches over on this side. Everything here is stuff that we've seen before. It's just not classic Spawn. Is that a huge negative? Not really. Would I have wanted issue number 1 cover Spawn? Absolutely. But I'm hopeful that we're going to get that once this figure kind of runs its pace here. And I think for the most part, they've done a really good job here. There is a tremendous amount of detail all over this figure. The entire body is covered in detail, muscular striation basically, to give it that, you know, kind of undead bodysuit kind of look. So you can see, I'm sure you can see it in the light as it picks up. All that little striation is being picked up when the light hits it. Everything here is sculpted really nicely. These spikes are kind of sharp, honestly. He's very pointy, and everything is covered in a wash. So he's not just a flat black. He does have kind of a gray overtone to him, as well as all of the armor that's red has a black wash over top of it. Same with the belt piece here for the chains. I'm not really upset that this isn't real metal. It looks fine. It blends in well with the colors on the spikes, so that works okay. Pouches, again, more of that red with the wash, and the same with the boot. The only thing that I really don't like in general about this figure is some of the design itself. I don't like this boot. I think it's goofy looking just in a general sense. I don't care for it. It doesn't exactly get in the way, surprisingly, but it does at the same time kind of get in the way, but you can use it to your advantage when you need to balance him as well. You've got the big gauntlet here, which kind of has like almost the blade at the end. I do just like the overall color scheme of this figure in terms of the muted colors. He's not bright, vibrant like we see on a lot of the old artwork, especially covers and things like that. He is very muted and just dirty, which works really well, especially in conjunction with showing off all of that sculpt. And then you've got, you know, kind of the Spawn logo that's on his chest here. It's painted pretty nicely. No real issues to speak of. The cape is a massive piece of a very pliable, rubbery plastic with a tremendous amount of wash on it. You know, granted, this is the one area where people are going to say they probably would have loved to have gotten a soft goods cape, and I'm kind of right there with you, but at the same time, this does hang really well. It doesn't really get in the way. It's just not exactly dynamic, but it does very much kind of give you that Spawn look, and I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. He just looks like Spawn, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. He may not be that classic version, but this is one that I'm familiar with, and it very much ticks all the boxes. And the same goes, well, mostly for the head sculpt. This is very much a Spawn head sculpt. The only real thing that I kind of wish was different, and this is a design thing, not a figure thing, is the eyes. I kind of wish they were more of that angular classic look, and it's more of that classic bias coming through, I suppose. But they look fine, they look good, they're just not exactly what I would want. But at the same time, I can't knock him for the design being what it is. This is how he looks in the game, so this is how he looks in the figure. He's got more of that muscular striation look all over the body, passed up onto the head. The paintwork for the mask is really nicely done. It's again, kind of dirty and rough. And then you've just got those bright green eyes that almost seem to glow compared to the rest of the figure. So it works really well. It's sized right. Sculpt is really good. Paint is on point. And yeah, I mean, that's a Spawn head sculpt if I've ever seen one. Now, of course, we have to talk size because this is a McFarlane toy. So that means he is a 7-inch style figure. So here he is next to the McFarlane Superman. You can see they kind of fit in. Spawn skews a little bit larger though. I'm not necessarily upset by his size because I kind of always figured Spawn was a lot larger than a lot of other characters just in a general sense. At least that's how I kind of viewed him. He's definitely not huge in the comics or anything, but at the same time, I could see him kind of towering over Wolverine, something like that. And then say here he is with like a Mythic Legions figure, so you can see he kind of scales with those. So he's in scale with, of course, your larger style figures in the 7-inch range, 7-inch format, stuff like that. But then here he is with like a Black Series figure, and you can see that he very much towers over our Knight of Ren figure. So you can get an idea of what he will look like next to your standard 6-inch figure, and say your smaller than standard 6-inch figure, and then of course your other lines that are also 7 inches. Now, when it comes to accessories, this is the area where I kind of wish he had a little bit more because he really only comes truly with one accessory. You've got this sword, and I do like this. I think it's a pretty solid weapon. There is a ton of different kinds of detail on here, so it's very gritty on the interior of the blade, and then there's all these other little blades that are kind of cut into it. You've got the Spawn emblem on the hilt down there with those green glowing eyes, and then you've got red paint and some wash for the handle. It's nice size. It works really well. He can hold it both hands just fine. He can hold it two-handed at the same time. You can get him in the right pose. Where I kind of wish things would have blossomed a little bit with this figure would have been to give him just more. So maybe a gun, because Spawn was very much a gun user, too, and then just extra hands, because he only comes with gripping hands, so I would have loved to have had a style pose hand, or say some fists. He also does come with a stand, which is par for the course when it comes to McFarlane stuff, and I'll be honest, I completely forgot it was in the box, and then I threw it away. So I don't have to show you, but he does come with one actual accessory, this pretty awesome sword. I just wish he had a little bit more, but that's pretty much normal anyway. So yeah, there's really not much more for me to say on this one. This guy does live up to the hype. There is a lot of fun to be had with this figure. I think we're seeing what McFarlane Toys can really do. There's a lot of things here that I wish were incorporated in some of the DC figures that I looked at. It's like all of the complaints I had with, say, the Superman figure are gone when it comes to this figure. He moves really well, except for maybe a few little areas like those hips. And he just looks fantastic. I think the sculpt is on point, the paintwork is on point. He's not, again, for the 100th time, he's not Spawn #1 Spawn, but he is still a very familiar design, and he works really well as our first entry into what is hopefully going to be more Spawn figures. I think that this guy is going to kind of propel things in the right direction, because a lot of folks are going to be really happy when they get their hands on this guy finally. I mean, the fact that people were paying $100 for this guy tells you just how much demand there's been. So yeah, guys, that's going to do it for this look at the McFarlane Toys Mortal Kombat line Spawn figure. Let me know what you think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.